I saw my wife choose a toxic male best friend over our marriage at dinner. I lawyered up, kept the house, filed for divorce, and ended it for good. When does disrespect become unmistakably clear? For me, it happened 3 weeks ago during what was supposed to be a pleasant dinner with my wife and her so-called best friend. We were at an upscale steakhouse downtown. This was the same guy who had always made my skin crawl, always finding excuses to text her, always needing her help with something, always making those subtle remarks about how lucky she was to have such an understanding husband whenever he was around. But that night, he crossed every line imaginable. We were halfway through our meal when he looked straight at me and said, "You know, she really deserves better than what she's getting as a husband." Just like that. No build-up, no context, no warning. He said it with a smug grin, like he was doing everyone a favor by stating an obvious truth. The table seemed to go quiet. My wife's fork froze halfway to her mouth. I calmly set my knife down and met his gaze. "That's interesting," I said evenly, "coming from someone who's been divorced twice and can't keep a relationship longer than 6 months. But sure, thanks for the marriage advice from the expert." His face flushed red, but I wasn't finished. "I'm just the guy who's actually committed to her." The silence stretched on for a long 10 seconds. Then my wife snapped. Her friend had just humiliated me in public, questioned my worth as a husband in front of strangers, and she wanted me to apologize to him. I smiled. Not a warm smile, but the kind you give when someone finally reveals exactly who they are. "No," I said simply. "What do you mean, no?" Her voice grew louder. People were definitely watching now. "I mean, no. I'm not apologizing for defending myself against someone who just disrespected me at our dinner table. If that's your line in the sand, then I guess we both know where we stand. This is exactly what I'm talking about. A real husband would put his wife's feelings ahead of his ego." My wife grabbed her purse, her hands trembling. "I can't believe you're acting like this after everything we've built together. Over him. This isn't about him," I said, standing and dropping cash on the table to cover the bill. "This is about respect. Something you seem to have forgotten I deserve, too." She followed me out to the parking lot, yelling the entire way, "You're being ridiculous. He's my oldest friend, and I'm your wife. Or at least I thought you were," I replied, "until you made it clear whose side you're on." We drove home in total silence, the kind that feels like a countdown to something ending. As soon as we walked inside, she went straight to the bedroom and started throwing clothes into a bag. "I need time to think," she said. "This isn't the man I married." "You're right," I said from the doorway. "The man you married would have apologized for having self-respect. Take all the time you need." She was going straight to the guy who had just humiliated me and told me she deserved better. "Perfect," I said. "That'll make things much clearer for both of us." "This is how you chose to handle it," I replied. "The moment you demanded I apologize for refusing to be disrespected." The front door slammed so hard the pictures on the wall rattled. I sat alone in my kitchen, beer in hand, and for the first time in months, maybe years, everything felt crystal clear. My wife had chosen her male friend over her husband and moved in with him to punish me for having a backbone. Game on. The next morning, I did something I had never done once in our 8 years of marriage. I didn't call her, I didn't text her, I didn't even check to see if she had tried to reach out. Instead, I called my brother, who happens to be a lawyer. After I explained everything that had happened, he was quiet for a moment before speaking. "You need to document everything," he said. "Every text, every call, every interaction. And honestly, if she's staying at another man's house, that's going to look terrible in divorce proceedings." "Divorce?" I repeated, still feeling like I hadn't fully woken up yet. He cut me off. "She moved in with a guy who publicly humiliated you and then demanded you apologize for defending yourself. What exactly are you hoping to salvage here?" He was right. I'd been married so long that I'd forgotten what having standards even looked like. By noon, I had an appointment with one of his colleagues who specialized in family law. By 3 o'clock, I understood exactly how much damage my wife had done to herself by moving in with her male friend during a marital conflict. "Document everything," the lawyer told me. "Texts, emails, social media posts, anything. And whatever you do, don't leave the house. Possession matters." I drove home feeling like I was seeing my life clearly for the first time in years. How many dinners had we sat through where her friend made little digs at me? How many times had she quietly taken his side during minor disagreements? How many warning signs had I ignored because I wanted to be the easygoing, understanding husband? My phone buzzed with a message from her. "I hope you're ready to have an adult conversation when you're done being stubborn." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Even now, she thought this was about me being stubborn. She genuinely believed I owed an apology to the man who disrespected me. I typed back, "Take all the time you need to think things through. No rush." 3 minutes later, "That's it? That's all you have to say? You said you needed space to think?" I replied. "I'm respecting that. You're supposed to fight for us. I fought for us at dinner. You chose your friend. Choices have consequences. She didn't respond for hours. Around 5 that evening, I noticed my neighbor across the street working in her front yard. We'd always been friendly, exchanged the usual pleasantries, but I'd never really taken the time to notice her before. She was probably around 30, worked as a nurse, and had been living alone since her divorce 2 years earlier. She waved when she saw me checking the mail. "How's your wife? Haven't seen her car around." "She's visiting a friend," I said, taking some time to think. She nodded knowingly. Sometimes space helps people figure out what they really want. "Exactly," I said. "How about you? How's single life treating you?" She laughed. "Honestly, better than married life did. At least now when someone disrespects me, I don't have to pretend it's okay." We talked for nearly 20 minutes. She was confident, funny, and very clearly interested in me. When she mentioned she'd made too much dinner for one person and asked if I'd like to join her sometime, I didn't hesitate. "How about tomorrow night?" she asked, smiling in a way that made her intentions obvious. "Perfect," I said. "I'll bring wine." That night, my phone lit up with messages from my wife. First came the anger, then the bargaining, then the threats. "Your silence is childish and cruel. We can work through this if you just admit you were wrong. He's only trying to look out for my happiness. If you don't apologize, by tomorrow I'm done pretending this marriage matters." I screenshotted every message and forwarded them to my lawyer with a note. "This is what emotional manipulation looks like in writing." Then I replied with a single text. "I'm not the one who moved in with another man, but thanks for clarifying where your priorities are." The next evening, I was having dinner with my neighbor. Her name was Lisa, and she was everything my wife wasn't: direct, honest, and refreshingly uncomplicated. She didn't play games or create chaos. She simply said what she meant. "So let me get this straight," she said over the second bottle of wine. "Your wife is staying with her male best friend, and somehow you're the villain?" According to her, yes. I should have apologized for being disrespected. Lisa shook her head. "My ex-husband used to pull the same nonsense. Always made me feel crazy for having boundaries. Best decision I ever made was stopping that game." "How long were you married?" I asked. 7 years too long," she said with a laugh. "But his loss turned into my gain. I learned what I actually deserve." After dinner, we moved into her living room. The conversation flowed easily, naturally. When she leaned in and kissed me, it felt effortless. No drama, no power plays, no ultimatums, just two adults acting on mutual attraction. I stayed the night. The next morning, as I walked back to my house, my phone showed 12 missed calls and 8 unread messages from my wife. I read them while making coffee in my kitchen. "Where are you? Answer your phone. I'm trying to save our marriage, and you're ignoring me. This is the last time I'm reaching out. Fine, have it your way. Don't come crying to me when you realize what you've lost." I forwarded everything to my lawyer and sent one reply. "You've made your choice. I've made mine. Take all the time you need." She thought staying with her friend would scare me, that I'd panic and beg her to come back. Instead, she'd handed me the greatest gift possible, time to remember who I was before I started accepting disrespect as the price of peace. And Lisa reminded me what it felt like to be wanted by someone who didn't see self-respect as a flaw. 3 days later, the divorce papers were filed. My wife had no idea what was coming. By the end of the first week, Lisa and I had slipped into a rhythm that felt more natural than anything I'd experienced during 8 years of marriage. She'd stop by after her hospital shifts, or I'd head over to her place with takeout. There was no tension, no walking on eggshells, no constant worry that I'd said the wrong thing or needed to explain myself. Lisa was straightforward in a way that felt almost revolutionary. When she wanted something, she said it. When she didn't like something, she said that too. One Saturday morning, she handed me my phone from the nightstand. "Your wife texted you again. We just finished breakfast in bed, something I'd never done while married because my wife always complained about crumbs in the sheets." I glanced at the screen. "I've been thinking a lot. We need to talk about fixing this mess you've created." "Even her apologies sound like accusations," Lisa said dryly, reading over my shoulder. "That's because it's not an apology," I replied. "It's her warming up to explain why everything is still my fault and how I need to fix it." "Are you going to respond?" Lisa asked. "Eventually," I said, setting the phone aside and pulling her closer. "But not today." The pattern continued for the next 2 weeks. My wife sent carefully worded messages designed to make me feel guilty for not chasing her. Sometimes it was anger. "Your silence proves exactly what kind of husband you really are." Other times it was manipulation. "I guess 8 years meant nothing to you." And occasionally, false urgency. "This is your last chance to save what we built together." I saved every single message. My lawyer was building quite the file. Meanwhile, Lisa and I were building something entirely different. She wasn't trying to reshape me or mold me into her idea of what a man should be. She liked me exactly as I was, including the parts my wife had spent years trying to sand down. "You know what I love about you?" Lisa said one evening as we cooked dinner together. You don't apologize for taking up space. My ex was always shrinking himself to keep everyone else comfortable. It was exhausting. My wife's friend used to call that arrogance, I said. Lisa snorted. Your wife's friend sounds like an idiot. A man who feels threatened by another man's confidence usually has a reason. Tuesday night marked 3 weeks since my wife had stormed out. I was at Lisa's place when my phone rang from an unknown number. Don't answer it, Lisa said. We're having too good a night to let drama ruin it. Normally, I would have ignored it, but something told me to pick up. It was my wife's sister. She's been crying for 2 days, she said without any introduction. Whatever fight you two had, just fix it. She misses you. Did she tell you what the fight was about? I asked. There was a pause. She said you embarrassed her friend at dinner and refused to apologize. Interesting version of events, I said calmly. Did she mention that her friend told me I wasn't good enough as a husband in public and that she demanded I apologize for defending myself? A longer pause followed. That's not how she described it. I'm sure it isn't. Did she also mention she's been living with that same friend for 3 weeks? She said she needed space to think. At his apartment, with the man who disrespected me, while demanding I beg for forgiveness, I said. Does that sound like someone who misses me, or someone who's angry her manipulation isn't working? Her sister didn't respond. A moment later, the call ended. That night, my wife tried a different tactic. Instead of accusations or ultimatums, she sent what looked like a sincere message. I think I've been unfair to you. Can we please talk? I want to come home. I showed it to Lisa. What do you think? Lisa raised an eyebrow. I think 3 weeks of living with her boyfriend didn't go the way she planned. He's not her boyfriend, I said. Lisa gave me a look that told me I was being naive. No woman moves in with a man who publicly humiliates her husband unless she's already emotionally invested. And no man risks wrecking someone's marriage unless he thinks he has a real chance. She was right. So, what happens if she comes back? Lisa asked. She'll expect the old me, I said. The version who apologized for having boundaries, the one who accepted disrespect just to keep the peace. I pulled Lisa closer. That guy's gone. She smiled and kissed my neck. Good. I like this version better. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages. I'm coming home tomorrow. We're going to sit down like adults and fix this. I hope you've learned something from this separation. Things are going to be different when I get back. I read them while Lisa made coffee in my kitchen, wearing one of my shirts and nothing else. The contrast wasn't lost on me. My wife was still issuing commands and expectations, while Lisa simply shared space with me, no conditions attached. She's coming back tomorrow, I said. Lisa glanced up. Are you nervous? No, I replied, surprised at how true it felt. I'm curious to see who she thinks she's coming back to. My lawyer had called the day before. The paperwork was ready. All it needed was her signature. My wife thought she was coming home to the same dynamic, the same man who would eventually fold and apologize for having self-respect. She was about to find out just how wrong she was. I heard her car pull into the driveway at exactly 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday. I know the time because I was sitting in Lisa's living room across the street, watching through the window with a cup of coffee, and absolutely no anxiety about what was coming. Lisa was getting ready for her evening shift at the hospital, moving around calmly like this was any other day. You sure you don't want me to stick around for moral support? She asked, slipping on her jacket. I'm good, I said, watching my wife step out of her car with the same overnight bag she'd left with 3 weeks earlier. This conversation has been a long time coming. She looked exactly the same, but somehow smaller. Maybe it was just my perspective that had shifted. Text me if you need backup, Lisa said, kissing me goodbye. And remember, you don't owe her anything, especially not an apology. I watched Lisa drive away, then stayed right where I was. 5 minutes later, my wife walked back out of the house looking confused. She checked the driveway, circled around to the backyard, then went back inside. My phone buzzed. Where are you? I'm home. 10 minutes later. Your car is here, but you're not. Are you hiding from me? 15 minutes after that. This is ridiculous. I drove all the way back here to fix our marriage, and you're playing games. Finally, I typed back, be there soon. I finished my coffee, took a shower at Lisa's, and made sure I looked completely relaxed and unbothered. Then I walked across the street at my own pace, like someone who wasn't about to be rushed or guilted into anything. She was waiting in the living room, perched on the edge of the couch like she was ready to spring into action. Hair perfect, makeup flawless, wearing the dress she knew I liked. It was all very deliberate. Finally, she said as I walked in, we need to talk. Sure, I said, settling into my favorite chair instead of sitting beside her. How was your thinking time? Her eyes flashed with irritation. She'd clearly expected me to ask why she'd been gone so long or tell her how much I'd missed her. It was enlightening, she said stiffly. I realized some things about our relationship, like how you take me for granted, how you embarrassed me in front of my oldest friend, how your pride matters more to you than our marriage. She leaned forward like she was presenting a closing argument. But I'm willing to work past that, if you're ready to acknowledge your mistakes. I almost laughed. After 3 weeks of living with another man, she was here to explain my failures. That's generous of you, I said. Her face softened immediately. I knew you'd come around once you had time to think. I know this separation was hard on you. I nodded without committing to anything. So here's what I'm proposing, she continued, sliding into full negotiation mode. You apologize to my friend for what happened at dinner, not because you have to, but because you want to show me our marriage matters more than your ego. Then we put this behind us and start fresh. And what do you apologize for? I asked. The question threw her off. What do you mean? What exactly do you need to apologize for? Her brows knitted together. I'm the one who was embarrassed. I'm the one whose friend was attacked. You moved in with another man for 3 weeks, I said evenly, and you're asking what you need to apologize for. She waved her hand dismissively. I stayed with a friend while you worked through your issues. That's completely different? Of course it is. He's been my friend for years. Nothing happened between us, but you chose him over me. I chose to give you space to realize you were wrong, she snapped. And clearly it worked, because here we are, ready to move forward. I stood up. I need some air. This conversation is very enlightening. Where are you going? She demanded, following me to the door. We're not done talking about this. You're right, I said, opening the door. We're definitely not done. I walked outside, leaving her standing there confused and frustrated. The old me would have stayed, let her lecture me, eventually apologized just to end the fight. But the old me had been gone for 3 weeks. I crossed the street toward Lisa's house, fully aware my wife was watching. This wasn't impulsive, it was intentional. I wanted her to see exactly where I was going and what that meant. Lisa's car wasn't in the driveway yet, but I had a key. I let myself in, grabbed a beer, and sat down on her couch. My phone immediately started buzzing. What are you doing over there? Come home right now. You're being childish. This isn't how you handle marriage problems. I took a long drink and typed back, you spent 3 weeks at another man's house. I'm spending 1 evening at another woman's. Fair is fair. The phone started ringing. I declined it. It rang again, declined again. Then the front door flew open, and my wife stormed inside without knocking. Are you out of your mind? She shouted. You can't just break into someone's house. I have a key, I said calmly from the couch. Lisa gave it to me. The color drained from her face. Last week? She whispered. 3 weeks ago, you moved in with your friend to teach me a lesson about respect, I said. Turns out I learned something very different than what you intended. She stood frozen, finally realizing this wasn't the conversation she'd planned. You have a key, she repeated. I do. Lisa thought it made sense since I've been spending most of my evenings here. Her expression cycled through confusion, anger, and something close to panic. Most of your evenings? She echoed. Well, you were having your thinking time with your friend, I said. I figured I'd have mine too. Turns out Lisa is excellent company. She stepped fully into the room and slammed the door behind her. How long has this been going on? How long has what been going on? Don't play games with me, she shouted. How long have you been with her? Since the day after you moved in with your boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend, and Lisa's not my girlfriend, I replied calmly. She's just someone who appreciates me exactly as I am. No demands, no ultimatums, no public humiliation. She started pacing, heels clicking sharply against the hardwood floor. This is insane. You're having some kind of breakdown. 3 weeks ago, you were a devoted husband, and now you're here. I'm happy, I said. Respected, valued. I stood up, setting my beer down. Yeah, it's been quite a transformation. You can't be serious about this, she snapped, gesturing around the room. She's just a rebound, a way to punish me. You know what's interesting? I said calmly. You assume everything I do is about you. Lisa and I didn't happen because of you. We happened despite you. That hit her hard. She actually staggered back. I want her out of the picture, she said. Now we're going home and working through this like adults. I laughed, out loud. You want her out of the picture? I said. You, who spent 3 weeks living with another man, want to tell me who I can see? That's different, and you know it. How? I asked. Explain exactly how it's different. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Because he's just a friend, she said weakly. And we're married. We were married, I corrected. The color drained from her face completely. What do you mean, were? I mean the woman who walked out of our house 3 weeks ago, demanding I apologize for having self-respect, isn't the same woman I married 8 years ago, I said calmly. The woman I married wouldn't have moved in with another man to punish her husband for refusing to be humiliated. She started crying immediately, mascara streaking down her cheeks. I was trying to save our marriage, By threatening to end it? I asked. By choosing another man over your husband? By living in his apartment while demanding I beg for your forgiveness? I shook my head. That's not saving a marriage, that's ending one. You don't mean that, she whispered. You're just angry. I've never been clearer about anything in my life. The front door opened, and Lisa walked in, still wearing her hospital scrubs. She took in the scene instantly. My wife crying in her living room, me standing calmly with a beer, the tension thick in the air. Should I come back later? Lisa asked, genuinely unfazed. No, I said. We were just wrapping up. My wife spun toward her. You did this. You ruined my marriage. Lisa looked confused. I'm sorry. Who are you? The casual indifference was devastating. My wife sputtered, struggling to find words. I'm his wife, she snapped. Oh, Lisa said, setting down her keys. The one who's been living with another man for 3 weeks. I've heard about you. It wasn't like that, my wife insisted. Lisa glanced at me. Didn't she move in with the guy who publicly disrespected you and then demand you apologize to him? That's exactly what happened, I said. Lisa nodded thoughtfully. Well, his loss turned out to be my gain. He's an incredible man when he's not being taken for granted. My wife's mouth opened and closed, unable to form a response. She'd expected to find me broken and desperate. Instead, she walked into a room where she had no control. This isn't over, she said finally, her voice trembling with anger. You think you can just replace me? Replace 8 years with some random woman? I'm not replacing anything, I replied evenly. You ended our marriage when you chose your friend over your husband. I'm just moving forward. I'm not signing any divorce papers, she said. You don't have to, I replied. I can still get divorced without your signature. It just takes longer. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. My lawyer explained everything. Abandoning the marital home to live with another man doesn't look great in court. She stared at the phone like it might bite her. You've been planning this. No, I said. You planned this the moment you walked out that door. I just accepted reality. Lisa cleared her throat politely. I hate to interrupt, but I have an early shift tomorrow and I'd really like to shower and unwind in my own house. The message was unmistakable. Fine, my wife snapped, heading for the door. But when you realize what a mistake this is, don't come crawling back. Won't, I said. She slammed the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Lisa raised an eyebrow. That was intense. I'm better than I've been in years, I said honestly. Tomorrow would bring the final confrontation, but for that night, I was exactly where I wanted to be. I woke up the next morning in Lisa's bed to loud pounding on the front door. Lisa had already left for her early shift. The knocking continued, urgent and demanding. I pulled on some clothes and opened the door to find my wife standing there, phone in hand. She looked like she hadn't slept, hair tangled, makeup smeared, still wearing the same dress from the day before. I need you to repeat what you said yesterday, she demanded. Say it again so I can record it. Good morning to you too, I said dryly. I'm not joking. Say it. Tell me about your affair so I can use it in court. Affair? I laughed. There is no affair. You moved out 3 weeks ago. I'm a single man dating a single woman. She raised her phone. Just say it. Why would I? Because you admitted it yesterday. I admitted I'm spending time with someone who respects me, I said. Someone who doesn't demand apologies for boundaries. Someone who doesn't move in with other men when she doesn't get her way. Her hand shook as she lowered the phone. This is evidence of adultery. Evidence of what? That after you abandoned our home to live with another man, I started dating? Good luck with that. She stared at me, realizing her plan wasn't working. You're destroying everything we built, she whispered. No, I said, stepping outside and closing the door behind me. You destroyed it 3 weeks ago. I'm just cleaning up the mess. I can't believe you're doing this after 8 years. 8 years where I put your feelings above my dignity, I replied. 8 years of apologizing for things that weren't my fault. 8 years of shrinking so you could feel bigger. I looked her straight in the eyes. Those years taught me exactly what I don't want. This isn't you, she said desperately. You're having some kind of crisis. You're right, I said calmly. The man you knew would have apologized for being disrespected. He would have begged you to come home. He would have spent 3 weeks miserable while you played house with another man. I smiled faintly. Thank God that guy is gone. She started crying again, real tears this time. I want to come home. This isn't your home anymore, I said quietly. It's my house. You left it. Stop calling him my boyfriend. Then what do you call a man you move in with after he humiliates your husband? I asked. What do you call someone you choose over your marriage? She had no answer. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're getting a lawyer. You're signing the papers, and you're accepting that choices have consequences. And if I don't, then you'll still be divorced, just with less money and a lot more embarrassment. I turned and walked back toward my house. Where are you going? She cried. Home. To get ready for work, you know, what adults do. I wasn't living off him. Really? I asked. Who paid for your food? Your gas? Your phone bill? Did you contribute anything? Her silence said everything. So you used him financially, and me emotionally, I said, shaking my head. And somehow I'm the villain. I unlocked my door and paused. Don't make this harder than it has to be. You made your choice. Now live with it. What about your neighbor? She shouted. Is she just revenge? Lisa isn't revenge, I said. She's what respect looks like. She's what you could have been if you'd chosen your husband. I'm not signing anything. That's your right, I said. But whether you sign or not, we're done. She stood in the driveway, looking lost, as I went inside and closed the door. Through the window, I watched her stand there for another 10 minutes, phone pressed to her ear, clearly trying to find someone, anyone, who would tell her she was right. But some things can't be undone. Some choices don't come with a reset button. She had gambled on the belief that I needed her more than she needed to respect me. She'd bet everything on my willingness to accept humiliation just to keep the peace. She lost. My phone buzzed. A text from Lisa. How did the morning drama go? Better than expected, I replied. Free for dinner tonight? Always. Your place or mine? I glanced out the window. My wife's car was finally gone. Mine, I typed back. I have a feeling it's going to be a very peaceful evening. For the first time in 8 years, I actually looked forward to coming home, to my own house. A place where I was respected, valued, and never asked to apologize for refusing to be treated poorly. Some lessons are expensive. Some freedoms are priceless. I was finally learning the difference. That afternoon, my lawyer called to confirm everything was moving forward. She hasn't responded to the paperwork yet, he said, but based on her actions, this is going to be very straightforward. I figured, I replied. He paused. Just keep doing exactly what you're doing. Stay calm. Don't engage emotionally. Let her messages speak for themselves. They already were. By the end of the week, word had started spreading. Mutual friends reached out, cautiously at first. Some wanted to check in. Others wanted the story. I kept my responses brief and factual. She moved out. She chose to live with another man. I filed for divorce. That was it. The reactions were telling. A few people went quiet. A few apologized for ever taking her side in past disagreements. And a few, the ones who'd always watched our marriage with curiosity, admitted they weren't surprised. One message stood out. It was from a friend we'd both known since college. I always wondered how long you'd put up with that dynamic, he wrote. You deserve better. Reading that felt like confirmation of something I'd always known, but refused to admit. Lisa came over that evening with takeout and a bottle of wine. We ate on the couch, shoes off, laughing at a terrible movie neither of us was really watching. You okay? She asked at one point, studying my face. Better than okay, I said honestly. I didn't realize how heavy everything felt until it stopped, she smiled. That's what peace feels like. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. Another message from my wife. I've talked to a lawyer. This doesn't have to get ugly. I stared at the screen, then handed the phone to Lisa. That's code for I'm realizing I messed up, she said. Exactly, I replied. I typed back a single sentence, then signed the papers and let it end cleanly. No response came. Over the next few days, her messages shifted again. Less anger, less accusation, more desperation. I miss you. I don't recognize my life anymore. We can still fix this if you're willing to try. I didn't reply. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. Lisa noticed the change in my mood immediately. You don't look conflicted, she said one night as we brushed our teeth side by side. I'm not, I said. I just see things clearly now. The clarity was almost unsettling. Looking back, I could trace the slow erosion of my boundaries. The countless times I'd swallowed frustration to keep things calm, the way I'd been trained to apologize first, think later. None of it felt acceptable anymore. A week later, my wife finally signed the papers. The relief I felt wasn't explosive or dramatic. It was quiet, solid, permanent. When my lawyer called to confirm, I thanked him and hung up, then just sat there for a moment, breathing in the silence. Lisa walked in from the bedroom, hair still damp from the shower. It's done, isn't it? Yeah, I said. It's done. She smiled softly and wrapped her arms around me. I'm proud of you. That meant more than I expected. That night we cooked dinner together, music playing in the background, windows open, no tension, no raised voices, no walking on eggshells, just peace. And I knew, without any doubt, that choosing myself had been the right decision. A few days later, the reality of it all started to sink in, not in a dramatic, movie-style way, but quietly, in small moments, like when I came home after work and realized there was no knot in my stomach waiting for the next argument, or when my phone stayed silent all evening, and instead of anxiety, I felt relief. Lisa and I settled into something steady without ever labeling it. There was no rush, no pressure to define what we were. We just enjoyed being around each other. She'd come over after long shifts, kick off her shoes, and curl up beside me like it was the most natural thing in the world. Sometimes we talked for hours. Other times we sat in comfortable silence, each doing our own thing without needing to fill the space. One night, while we were cooking dinner, she glanced at me and said, "You know, most people don't realize how bad something is until they're out of it." I didn't, I admitted. I thought that constant tension was normal, like that's just what marriage felt like after a while. Lisa shook her head. That's not marriage. That's emotional exhaustion. Her words stuck with me. My wife tried one last time to regain control about a week later. She showed up unannounced while Lisa and I were eating dinner on the back patio. I saw her car pull up and felt nothing. No panic, no anger, just annoyance. "I just want to talk," she said, standing at the gate like she still belonged there. "There's nothing left to talk about," I replied calmly. "You owe me closure," she snapped. "I don't owe you anything," I said. "You made your choices. I accepted them." Her eyes flicked to Lisa, who was sitting quietly at the table. "So this is it? You replaced me already?" Lisa didn't flinch. "No," she said evenly. "He chose himself. That was it. That was the sentence." My wife scoffed, muttered something under her breath, and walked back to her car. No dramatic exit, no final speech, just defeat. Watching her drive away, I realized something important. I didn't hate her. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was just done. Later that night, Lisa asked softly, "Does it bother you, seeing her like that?" I thought about it honestly. "It bothers me that I stayed as long as I did." She smiled gently. Growth hurts sometimes. As the weeks passed, my life continued to simplify. Friends I'd drifted from started reaching out again. My brother invited me over more often. I picked up hobbies I'd slowly abandoned. Running in the mornings, reading before bed, working on my house without someone criticizing every choice I made. One afternoon, while repainting the living room, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked lighter, not younger, but more solid, like someone who finally trusted himself. Lisa noticed it too. "You carry yourself differently," she said one night, "like you're not waiting for permission anymore." "I'm not," I replied. I didn't realize how much of my life I'd been negotiating. That realization hit harder than I expected. My lawyer called again to confirm final dates and paperwork details. Everything was nearly complete. Clean, simple, no surprises. "She hasn't contested anything," he said. "Honestly, she doesn't have much ground to stand on." "Good," I said. And I meant it, not out of spite, but because I wanted it over. That weekend, Lisa and I hosted a small dinner with a few close friends. Laughter filled the house. Music played softly. For the first time, my home felt like a place of warmth instead of tension. At one point, Lisa squeezed my hand and whispered, "This feels right." "It does," I agreed. Later, after everyone left and the house was quiet again, I stood alone in the living room, taking it all in. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was peaceful. I thought about the version of myself who would have apologized just to keep the peace, who would have accepted humiliation as a trade-off for stability, who believed love meant shrinking. That man felt like a stranger now. I turned off the lights and headed to bed, knowing something with certainty I'd never felt before. I wasn't broken. I was finally free. The final paperwork was signed on a quiet Tuesday morning. No courtroom drama, no shouting, just ink on paper, and a chapter closing exactly the way it should have. Clean and final. When my lawyer called to confirm everything was officially complete, I thanked him, hung up, and sat there for a long moment, letting it sink in. 8 years of marriage, reduced to a legal conclusion, and yet, I didn't feel loss. I felt relief. That evening, Lisa came over after her shift, still in scrubs, hair pulled back, tired but smiling. She took one look at my face and knew. "It's done," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "Completely done." She set her bag down and wrapped her arms around me without saying another word. No celebration, no commentary, just presence. And that was everything. We ordered takeout and ate at the kitchen counter, talking about ordinary things. Her patience, a new restaurant opening downtown, the paint color I was considering for the guest room. Normal conversation, peaceful conversation, the kind that doesn't come with hidden landmines. At some point she laughed and said, "You know, most people think freedom feels loud, like fireworks or some big moment. What does it feel like instead?" I asked. She tilted her head. "Quiet, like exhaling after holding your breath for years." That was exactly it. Over the next few weeks, I noticed how different my days felt. Mornings weren't rushed or tense. I didn't rehearse conversations in my head before walking into my own home. I didn't brace myself for criticism disguised as concern. I simply lived. Lisa never asked me to be anyone else. She didn't compete with my past or demand reassurance about my choices. She trusted me, and more importantly, she respected me. One night, as we sat on the couch watching rain streak down the windows, she said, "You know what I admire most about you?" I glanced over. "What? You didn't just leave? You changed. Most people escape bad situations only to repeat them. You actually learned." Her words stayed with me. I thought back to that dinner, the moment everything shifted, the public humiliation, the expectation that I'd apologize for standing up for myself, the choice my wife made when she demanded loyalty to her friend over respect for her husband. That night hadn't ended my marriage. It revealed it. The disrespect had always been there. I'd just been willing to tolerate it for the illusion of harmony. Walking away wasn't abandonment. It was self-preservation. One afternoon, while sorting through old paperwork, I came across photos from early in my marriage. I studied my younger self, the forced smiles, the tense posture. I didn't feel nostalgia. I felt compassion. He didn't know better yet. I put the photos away and closed the drawer, not out of bitterness, but because I didn't need reminders anymore. Lisa noticed the shift in me too. "You don't flinch anymore," she said once. "Not when your phone buzzes. Not when someone disagrees with you." "I stopped fearing conflict," I replied. "Turns out peace doesn't come from avoiding it. We never talked about forever. We didn't need to. What we had was real, grounded, honest. And for the first time, that felt like more than enough." One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sun dip below the rooftops, Lisa leaned against me and said, "You know, choosing yourself doesn't make you selfish." "I know," I said. "It makes you honest." Across the street, my house stood quiet and solid. Mine. Not just legally, but emotionally. A place where I was respected. A place where I wasn't asked to shrink. A place where I never had to apologize for having boundaries. Some lessons cost time, some cost relationships. But the freedom to live without accepting disrespect, that was priceless, and I'd never trade it for anything.